I'm not bad at you, Godzilla. I'm not bad. What a movie I just saw. I'm sorry, Godzilla. I'm not mad. I'm just proud of you. Gotcha. Gotcha. You thought this is gonna be one of those mopey vlogs like I just happened to have for like what was it? A few weeks in a row. Well, okay, not exactly in a row. I did give Thanksgiving a good grade. But, yeah. I just saw Godzilla -1. And I think I already told you that I felt proud of watching that movie. Which kind of tells you right on the get-go my feelings about it. But before I go into details about my feelings to it, I gotta say a few things. First of all, a little bit of a reminder. This little Godzilla, I got it when I went to Japan. I remember, if you saw my Japan videos back in 2019, 2020 when the videos was released, is that I did went to the Godzilla and no, it was the Gracery Hotel where they had this Godzilla room because they have this Godzilla exhibitions and this big Godzilla thing. And well, when you go there, they give you some Godzilla souvenirs, and this is one of them. And it's basically a paperweight with Godzilla in it, which kind of describes that while I'm not exactly kind of like the biggest fan of Godzilla, it really hooked me in to the point that maybe I could consider myself a half fan. And I just say that mostly because I haven't seen all of the movies, but I did. But when times comes when I decided to catch up, I did catch up. And every time I go to see a Godzilla movie, it's always technically an experience. And I just gotta stop saying technically once in a while. But anyway, a little bit of a big recap because I think I already talked a lot about my feelings of Godzilla. Is that I still love the original, the black and white version. And I'm talking of the Japanese version, not the one with Raymond Burr. Although to be fair, I never saw that one, but I know that this movie has this guy being very intrusive. Then I didn't see most of them. I know I missed King Kong, Godzilla vs. King Kong, which is kind of like a fan of them all. I am sad to say that probably my biggest exposure to Godzilla was the 1996 one, with the one with Roland Emmerich. Although nowadays this movie lost its respect to the point that it doesn't deserve to be called Godzilla. It just call it Zilla. Then I saw a few ones like 2000 versus Ghidorah. I did saw Space Godzilla once in a while. I did had a chance to watch Final Wars, and from that point, this is where I did manage to catch up with the latest Godzilla that came out here and there. Starting with with that American movie that I remember that the biggest disappointment that I had with that movie is that Godzilla is barely in it. Then there was, then they wanted to build up this kaiju cinematic universe, starting out with King Kong and Skull. On the sideline, Skull Island was entertaining. It was pretty good, even though I'm not exactly a big fan of King Kong. Then came Godzilla, King of the Monsters. That's the one that I saw in Japan. and I thought that was a popcorn movie. I can understand people calling it that it was pretty stupid. It was kind of like ham-fisted. Although I just kind of brush it off almost like a guilty pleasure. But mostly because it was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. Kind of like it was really a guilty pleasure. Probably the only thing that I was kind of like not liking about it is that woman who was a terrible character. But at least I'll give the credit to the movie that she got what she deserved. And then came, I think that the last movie that came out of Godzilla was not the last one. I almost skipped Shin Godzilla, which was made, which the director is none other than the guy who made Neon Genesis and Evangelion. I saw that movie twice. I do have some respect to it. The funny thing is that I did the second time I saw this movie, it was during a live stream show with a group of peers that they go watch movies, and boy, that they kind of hated the movie, and me on the other side, I kind of understand it that Shin Godzilla is it was one of those movies that is hard to understand. And it's mostly because it is centered on the political aspect of how to handle a disaster like that. But it's mostly because Godzilla is a pop culture icon from Japan, and it's still always remembered as a symbol of the nuclear disasters that Japan had to go through because of the atomic bomb, which is a theme that has been expanded during almost all the Godzilla movies, from the serious ones to the cheesy ones to the kaiju battle ones, whatever it is. And I did understand Shin Godzilla that he wanted to go on that route, but it's mostly also because I was familiar with the guy's sense of direction. I mean, I look at how even the Evangelion series is. I'm not a fan of Evangelion, although I kind of understand why there's certain kind of like a sick appeal out of it. And then I wanted to come out saying that King Kong versus Godzilla, and while in paper it is an entertaining idea, the more I think about it analytically, I'm beginning to dislike that movie more and more the more I think about it. And the biggest reason is that the movie felt really one-sided. It kind of misses the point that it is about two monsters battling out, and I think that the movie could have been better if the movie didn't take sides. But unfortunately, that movie it tries so hard and fails, but it tries so hard to be on King Kong's side. And the thing with the girl and all this thing, I call it BS, and I hated it. I hated that aspect of King Kong, and because they wanted to paint King Kong as the good guy, and I didn't like that thing. They should have let the monsters be monsters. And they made Godzilla kind of like the anti-bad guy on those ones. So that was disappointing. Although if you ask me, I'm more on a Godzilla side because I think Godzilla kicks ass more than King Kong. Whew. But that is probably the last movie we see about Godzilla. I think they are making another one. I'm not 100% sure. But the movie that we're going to talk about, Godzilla -1, that one came out a little bit of a surprise. I never knew much about the existence of the movie, except that when I was when we're surveying what movie I was gonna watch this week, I was a little bit inclined to watch what was it, Silent Night, the new John Woo movie. And of course, then I begin to see, oh, Godzilla minus one is gonna show up on the same day. But I had a little bit of the bad feeling that it was gonna be probably on New York, considering that it's gonna be a Japanese movie, and and usually foreign movies they show it on specific movie theaters, mostly artsy ones. But surprise, it wasn't. It was gonna be shown on a movie theater that it was gonna be nearby. Then I saw the trailer, and then I made my decision. Since I like Godzilla, that's the movie that I decided to go to. So sorry, John Woo. My taste for Godzilla outweighs John Woo. I'm not even a fan of John Woo. I think I never seen any of his movies. So I just thought Silent Night was a movie I decided to watch because, well, I mean, who doesn't feel attracted to a revenge film about a guy that is basically mute? So I went there, 11 a.m., and I'm not joking. I am not joking. I said that I never like to overhype a movie, even whether it's good or bad. But sometimes I have to play a little bit with the emotions. Although I give it my best to not overhype. But my earnest emotion is, the more I think about this movie, Godzilla minus one, the more I think about it, it always comes with the same conclusion. Godzilla minus one is probably not only the best Godzilla movie I have seen, but probably the best movie I have seen this year. Right now, I have a competition in my mind of which was the best movie I have seen. Either Godzilla minus one or Oppenheimer. This is gonna take a while, and I have to think it through because at the end of the year I have to make the video of my best and worst of the year. But no matter who wins or loses on this one, Godzilla minus one will always come out winning. Sheesh, the way the movie was made, it feels like an Oscar contender, and it doesn't necessarily need to be. I may be exaggerating, but the quality, the storytelling, the amount of effort that this movie made, and it is a movie that apparently the budget doesn't even reaches out a Marvel movie or even the American Godzilla movies. It's a little bit less than that, although maybe the budget is counted considering the conversion between yen to dollars. So I was like curious to see who directed this movie, and to my surprise, it was this guy named Takashi Yamazaki. So I looked for what else he had done, and my God, this guy had worked on some animes that are well known. He made 2 Parasite movies, not the Korean movie based on the manga, but he made the movie. I haven't seen those ones. he made the two Stand By Me Doraemons, which Doraemon is also an icon of Japan, and it's a wholesome thing. But my biggest surprise is that he also directed Dragon Quest, Your Story, which many people criticize this movie because they don't like the twist ending. But I'm more on the team that I actually like Dragon Quest, Your Story. I like that movie. So now he brought me this, Godzilla -1. Huge hit the more I think about it. And I feel pretty bad with this movie that it was only like 6 people who went to see this movie. So, I implore you, watch that movie and probably you'll see some resurrection of the cinema. At least when the movie ended, one guy applauded. And I'm not exactly the kind of guy who kind of approves someone who applauds in the movie theater because it was like, that would feel pointless because no one is gonna hear you. Maybe for the sake of kindness, I will allow that because I did also feel like applauding. I didn't do it. I just kind of like give it a kind of like an imitative clap at least to respect the other audiences. But still, where do I start? And I won't dare to spoil too much about the movie, but I will tell you some elements that I really like about the movie. So, Godzilla -1, it takes place during Japan post-war. The movie takes place between 1945 and it does have some jumps up to 1947. It maybe sound like 2 years, but keep in mind that during that time, Japan was hit really, really hard when they lose the war. They had economic recessions. They had to pay the prices of the civilians not trusting the government. They had to patch things with exterior relationships. Sorry about that. There's a dog barking outside, but anyway. But mostly the movie centers around this guy named Koichi Shikishima. During World War II, he was assigned to be a kamikaze pilot. For those who doesn't know, kamikaze is a term suicidal, and kamikaze pilots are basically pilots that. They go to battle and if they need to die for their country, they'll do. But this guy, he is a disgraced kamikaze pilot because he basically was a coward. He just ran away and lands on a mechanical base because pretending that his plane was broken. But it's mostly because he was afraid to die. And not everyone, they just don't like him because he didn't do his duty as a soldier and all that stuff. But then, out of the blue on the island, the eponymous Godzilla comes out and kills all the soldiers except for our protagonist and another one. And this event leaves him traumatized that so much that even when he gets home, he's disgraced. He lives in the poverty. He has nowhere to go, but then things begin to pick up a little bit, at least ironically, when he meets this woman named Noriko, in which he has a baby that she picks up because she picked it up when she was handled by the real parent and all that stuff. She begins to follow our protagonist, and they decided to try to form, rebuild from what they got. You see them struggle with the poverty. Then the guy had to take up at least a dangerous job, and for example, starting to look for looking for mines, being a minesweeper, because those are the remnants of the war and all that stuff. But then they get the news that Godzilla has grown immensely in power and now is becoming a danger to Japan, which makes it worse because like I said, during that time period, even for a 2-year span, Japan is trying to recover from the tragedies of the war, and then you have now you have this monster that is basically indestructible, coming out that is going to threaten not only the people but also their livelihood and the city itself. This really puts the people in a serious situation that the stakes get really, really high. And that's the funny thing. During the whole movie, I was like, why this movie is called -1? And then I just had to look for the internet, and people, they begin to say, oh, it's because Japan was on 0 during that time, but Godzilla comes down to put them into an even another level of despair, which is -1. Okay, I should shut up a little bit too much about this plot point of the movie, but I do want to talk about a few of the characters. And let's start out with the protagonist, Koichi Shikishima, which is played by Ryanosuke Kamiki. I'm reading my IMDb, as you can see. One of the biggest criticisms that many people have with a Godzilla movie is that they always find a way to say that the humans are not interesting. They're always kind of boring. We just want to see the monster blow stuff. It is kind of always waiting for a train wreck to happen. It's almost similar, like, for example, if you're in Small World and then you see a naked guy. It's disturbing, but at least it's fun. Wink, wink. See what I did there. But anyway, many people always talk about, again, the boring aspect of the human side of Godzilla. Although, when you think about it, it's not always like that. Even the original movie, the human aspects are very interesting. Although then some of the later Godzilla movies, they become cheesy and all that. And sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't. It depends on how much you pay attention to the movie or how much you invest on it. In Shin Godzilla, I kind of a little bit fails to some people with that because the human aspect is a little bit too. It has too much on the bureaucrat side that not many people are fond of. But in the case of -1, that was golden. The human aspect is become as interesting and compelling as the Godzilla part. So much that it really humanizes the movie in itself. Because we have our character who, like I said, he's a disgraced kamikaze pilot. But at the same time, you see this guy struggling on his fear of dying, and then when the Godzilla incident happened, you feel that the poor guy is left with post-traumatic disorder and also a big combination of survivor's guilt. And the poor guy, you see him struggle. You see him even when he gets back to his home. He sees that everything is destroyed. His neighbor even yells at him for not doing his duty as a kamikaze pilot, and she blames him because the neighbor she had her children were killed during the air raids. And also he gets the news that his family also died. So the guy really has reached rock bottom. But that is when this woman that came out of nowhere comes to his life with a baby. And well, at first she follows him almost like a ragtag because she had nowhere to go. The guy was a little bit reluctant, saying that I don't know if she should stay or something like that. But then little by little they began to build the pieces here and there, even risking his life on a dangerous job. And when Godzilla comes and he has to confront this moment, you see him, fearing for his life, and also you can see him suffer for this tremendous guilt that he had an opportunity to kill off Godzilla when he was in a weaker state. Although you might kind of, I'm not gonna exactly tell what it is, but still you're gonna question it if his decision was gonna risk it or not. You're gonna question if what he was gonna do was gonna work or not, considering the history of Godzilla. But still, there's still this survivor's guilt that this guy had, and when he gets into this mode of despair, it's sad, it's traumatized, and this gives a lot of three-dimensionality to this character that is. You can't help but feel very bad for the guy. And it also helps out that you also get surrounded by a lot of characters that you're gonna like. Like for example, the woman that I say, her name is Noriko. She's played by Minami Hamabe. I thought at first I thought that she was gonna be kind of like the annoying woman, a little bit like the thief type that is kind of like cocky or something like that. Rarely, sometimes this character work, but no, it wasn't. When you hear her story and how she begins to be a little bit more devoted to reconstruct her life, it's admirable, and she kind of becomes a little bit of the pillar of hope to our main character. And also it did help that they had the baby in which she's named Akiko. I am glad that this baby wasn't a tool to be used by saying that, oh, you got a baby that is cute. And it also brings an extra layer of sympathy to the little girl, because this movie could easily be said that it was Noriko's mother, but it wasn't. She was just a baby that her real parents died during the air raid, and Noriko just happened to pass by and finds the mother, and the mother basically just give it to her. And baby also becomes a little bit of the pillar of strength for our main protagonist. And then we got other characters that it begins to form part of our main character's life. Like I said, the guy takes a job mine sweeping the mines on the sea, and this is where he meets his co-workers that become his friends. Three of the most particular is there's kind of there's the captain. There is an intelligent doctor. I don't remember exactly the names. I'm not exactly very good with Japanese names most of the time. And also there is this youngster, the youngster who he wasn't part of the war, but he really feels that he wanted to do something. It's kind of like the young eager cadet that wants to be there. There are a bunch of quirky, likable characters, and you believe then that all of these characters have a family and a group of friends. Even the neighbor that she basically cursed our protagonist for not completing his duty as a kamikaze soldier. She later begins to warm up when she hears about his situation and the woman, and she becomes a babysitter. Oh, thank goodness! And honestly, I am glad that she didn't went to the route of that mean-spirited aunt from Grave of the Fireflies. I'm glad that they did that. Of course, there are some other characters that are basically incidental that I'm not gonna exactly mention. Although the ones that I told you are basically the centerpiece. Although there's also the citizens. There is the military. Although it's not the big bad military like you always said. It's just military that are mostly on the civil part of the army, not the Japanese government funded military nor any of the United States things. They also have kind of like their own arcs, and this enriches the feeling about this movie. And of course, there's Godzilla. Well, okay, I know this in Japan they call it Gojira, but I'm very used to saying Godzilla. But anyway, don't get me wrong in many things. I don't care, or well, not exactly I don't care. I don't mind in which position you put Godzilla. You could put him as the bad guy. You could put him as the anti-hero for all these cheesy movies. But depending on what you want to do with this character, no matter what you do, he's always, or like originally intended, is going to be a pop culture symbol that was born from the atomic catastrophes that Japan had to go through. The movie originally was like that. It's a creature that was born from nuclear warfare. It still kind of makes me think, how did it went into like that? How did it evolve into that? At first, he was a monster that threatened Japan, and then I don't know how they make him paint like a well, quote unquote good guy monster, but it's mostly because they wanted to pit him up with other monsters. Like I said, I don't mind either way, because on one hand, if you have Godzilla battling other monsters, it's a popcorn flick. It gets entertaining. But on the other hand, when you want to make him serious, it is incredible the lengths that they go to showcase how much of a destructive force this monster is. I'm not going to deny that Shin Godzilla did the work well on showcasing how Godzilla is a nuclear menace. But in this case, Godzilla really comes off as one of the best villains of this year. He can even step on King Magnifico without a hitch. But in a way, I can't describe Godzilla as much as a villain because, well, he's basically an animal and it just goes whatever his instincts goes to. It doesn't. It just do what it does. And it causes destruction. But still, being a menace to society, is still a bad guy. And to make things worse, he's breaking havoc to he's breaking havoc to a city that is still in the depths of despair and is still recovering from the remains that World War II just left. So this is beyond rock bottom, and people, they try their best with even the most limited resources that they have, because even their military technology is very limited. I mean, even they begin to mention that even their planes, they are not even equipped with with an eject button. And to make things also worse is that the Japanese government, they just don't want to invoke panic to all over the world, so they kept things a little bit in secret, and also they can't get help from foreign countries because at the time United States and Soviet and the Soviet are in cahoots with each other, so they have that problem too. So the people that are there are just left defenseless. Okay, continuing on, let's talk a little bit about the cinematography, which again is pretty good, and I would say that the CGI is not bad. It's actually pretty good. Of course, that we also have to talk about Godzilla look when it's about cinematography, because this is where most of the Godzilla movies shine. Each movie always has kind of like a variant on how Godzilla looks, but it almost always retains the original design. In the case of -1, it's basically the same, kind of like this one. But of course, they made the spikes a little bit larger. I like the look of the eyes. It's still very recognizable. Oh, but I do also want to mention that they added this awesome scene every time he shot his infamous atomic breath. Whenever he wants to shoot his atomic breath, the spikes, they just pop out a little bit and they begin to glow, and then this is when he charges and breathes his atomic breath. And boy, that this atomic breath they made it even more destructive. It's not just, they didn't just made it a laser blast. No, this time, whatever that atomic breath lands, it explodes like in an atomic blast. That's how huge it is. And continuing a little bit on the technicality, yeah, we do of course have the obligatory scene in which Godzilla invades a town full of civilians. In this case, the district of Ginza in Tokyo. And like I said, it is Japan still recovering, but the more I think about it, it becomes kind of ironic that I see all this poverty and this struggle and all this stuff, And nowadays, when I went to the district of Ginza in Tokyo, that part was kind of like the most expensive place in Tokyo. Uh, so pretty ironic. But either way, it was it was an amazing. It was amazing. I really like that part when it breaks havoc. No one is safe from Godzilla. Not even the reporters that are on top of the building making their job. Still, no one is safe in that movie, and it shows. You even see people being stepped on it. And kudos that they made their best to make the whole thing look good. I don't think that there was kind of like an ounce where I see something that looks a little bit fake or out of place. So don't expect to see like a rubber chicken running around the town, almost like they did to Shin Godzilla. I'm sorry, I don't mean to blast on Shin Godzilla. I do appreciate that movie, but you know what? Still, that rubber chicken moment of Shin Godzilla always gets me. Alright, what else I could say without spoiling the movie? Well, I already told you a little bit about the thematic of the movie, about Japan struggling through post-World War II, and then having to deal with an even bigger menace than, the American soldiers, but they have kind of like little to no resources. You feel that people despair. You feel some other are trying to come up with plans, and sometimes they don't feel like this could guarantee the whole thing. Oh yeah, it also doesn't help also that I don't know if this was also mentioned in other Godzilla movies, but Godzilla can self-regenerate. I'll leave it at that. But the biggest theme about this movie, which it links mostly to our main character, is like I said, is about it's mostly about the how you come to terms to yourself after war, and how much you measure your life, how much. What makes your life worth it? Is it for civic duty, or because imagine our protagonist, he was trained to be a kamikaze soldier. It's one of those people that they train you to kill yourself for your country. And then this is something that is even debatable even to this day, because there's these kind of people that I'm not gonna get too much into details, but it happens. And when you see the history of Japan and its military tactics, they were very rough. I mean, yeah, rough to the point that they do have that soldiers that they either have to die for their country or go back and be in shame. And how long are you going to endure this shame? And is your life worth living with all this shame? So, and we have our protagonist that he has this guilt. Not only for defecting the battle and his purpose as a kamikaze soldier, but then the Godzilla incident happens where he survives, but he only survives because of an act of hesitation. And the guy even begins to doubt that he should be alive. He even begins to saying that this is probably a dream. I'm not alive and all this stuff. And in the words of the movie, he feels that his war is not over. And this is saying so much even when he is reconstructing his own life and when he finds this pillar of hope with a woman and a child that help him find a purpose on his life, and he builds this new family of broken people as well as new friends. Then Godzilla comes that it threatens his new livelihood, and also triggered his post-traumatic moment. And when you see him in deeps of despair and making those hard choices, it's sad. You feel a lot of sympathy to this character. This is a level of sympathy that not many Oscar-winning movie can achieve. It's this kind of emotional movies is not very easy to do, especially when you're using a pop culture icon like Godzilla. You could have easily botched it because again, I'm a little bit sick and tired that many people always criticize the other Godzilla movies by saying that the human aspects are not interesting and tends to get boring and it dilutes from the the grand spectacle of seeing Godzilla wreaking havoc on the city or another giant monster. And yeah, I know, sometimes they made it cheesy, but not every time. And this one, I'm gladly I could say that this one can come as an exception. But to be fair, at least on the a little bit on the entertaining aspect, there's a fair amount of screen time with Godzilla. It's a better screen time moment than the American Godzilla, not the 1996. I'm talking about the other one. It has this moment. I mean, you can even see the destruction that he does when in a very exhilarating boat scene. But honestly, I can't praise this movie enough. So, like always, I'm gonna and also like I promised, I will give my best to not overhype this movie, because even if as much as I love this movie, I just want to give it a little bit of a few nitpicks. Although these are technically kind of like mild. For one, like I already said, if you are kind of looking for kind of like a big action-packed Godzilla movie that is gonna fight monsters, you're not gonna get there. This is a more serious tone for a Godzilla movie, and if you're not looking for that, you might get disappointed. But I will say that you should give it a try and be a little bit more open-minded to that. Also, the movie sometimes can tend to be a little bit slow, although this is mostly because it is a drama. The movie is like 2 hours. Sometimes you might feel a little bit tired, but because of about kind of like the event, the up and down pace that it has. Um, but again, I suggest you that this is a movie that you have to pay attention and uh, uh, try to see by the characters, and you'll get invested to it. This is a movie that you can get easily be invested with the characters, which it works. And because if you're not invested with the characters, even a long movie can feel like a drag. No, I'm sorry about that. Sometimes a short movie can feel long if you feel that you're not invested with the character or something like that. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Other negatives that I have, no more. No. I don't think that there isn't much that I want to say about this movie in a negative way. That's and I don't want to continue anymore. I just want to say that this really was a great movie. I really highly recommend you to watch it. And now that I think about it, it's funny that both Oppenheimer and this one I am considering being the best movie I have seen this year, and both of them also have to do uh, with nuclear weapon allegories. Uh, what a funny world we live in. There's nothing much I can say. Just this.